still planning his 12-hour walk, which is half the length of one of his rants. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice. We're going to mandate you. Get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
And Brad Wialliams.
There it is.
That's right. Sitting in for Bald Bryan and on the sound effects machine.
I'm scared.
Listen, this job is not that hard.
That's the secret.
Bald complains about it all the time. Oh, I've got to edit drops. I've got to do all this stuff. Listen, you wait for someone to say something fun and then you just hit. It's not that hard, Bald Bryan. No wonder someone with a tumor can do this. I have no tumor. I'm doing it twice as good.
He's gonna fucking kill you.
Well, Bald has the flu, and it's severe, so he's going to be out for a couple days. And we got Brad Wialliams sitting in. So we have a Leno update.
Yes.
Because, I don't know, Brad, you've been to the shop, right?
I have not been to Leno's shop, but I read the headline, and it's scary. And the man works on cars all the time. I know he had that one incident a couple years ago where he rolled the car like on his show.
Yeah,
and,
Jay Leno's garage, hanging under glass, funny car.
And which was interesting because if you watch the clip of him rolling the car, he keeps the same face of like, well, here we go. We're just going to roll right here. Okay, I'll just be fine.
Yeah.
Like that's, he didn't panic. He didn't scream. So
no. He was a passenger.
Yeah.
His first question was, is the driver okay?
Oh, what a mensch.
That's who that Jay. Low resting pulse.
Yeah.
That's what he
like
has.
You.
Now, comically, I used to say about Jay, it's going to be funny when some kid writes a book report on Jay Leno's life in 2037, and at the end they say he died in a steam car accident because the teacher's going to go, we all have hovercrafts, Johnny.
That's an F.
That's an F for you. The steam cars were phased out 122 years earlier, and I joked about him dying in a steam car accident, and then we were talking about like what happened, and I said, well, I've been there when he's trying to fire up steam cars and he's underneath the car with a torch and a big plume of fire shoots out, and but then the news was it was a gasoline fire.
Right.
But the gasoline fire was, as I pointed out, but I didn't know it at the time, they got to use something to burn to boil the water to create the steam.
Interesting.
So I think he was working on his 1903 White.
Well, that I don't have, but I do have some information about
It's in
how
the
it happened.
story somewhere. Dawson may have
TMZ
it.
story here.
See?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you were right. 1907 white steam car.
White, right. Mm-hmm.
Which had a clogged fuel line. He said there was a fuel leak and gas sprayed on his face and hands. A spark triggered an explosion, which then set the Jay Leno's garage host on fire.
Yeah, so he was working on a steam car.
Now, do you know who Dave is? Because it went on to say that seconds later. Yeah, thank you.
That's good.
Fuck.
Brian, we don't need you. You have been replaced.
His friend Dave was with him in the garage, immediately jumped on him to smother the fire. Otherwise, he might have died.
There are a cast of usuals that are around there. Bernard, Dave, guys like that that are they're fixtures in the garage.
Yeah.
If you ever go over there, there's 4 or 5 of them. We're oftentimes working on their own projects, and sometimes Jay, and usually has a guy working with him on something, and that was Dave at that point.
And just hopped to it, jumped into action.
Yes, so good for Dave.
Man, and this is why I'm going to tell my wife. This is why I refuse to learn how to work on cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is why I will.
2 words, Jay Leno.
Yeah, Jay Leno. That is why I refuse to do anything.
We have a couple of vids from back in the day, and I knew this one kind of existed with him.
Oh, this is the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
They're all chitty chitty bang bang, but here we go.
Yeah, so this is what Adam originally thought happened to him, because in this clip, Leno will talk about what's happening as he tries to start the steam car, and then he flashes back to an incident in 2007.
Well, now, when you run low on water, what happens is the fire will scorch the tube. The copper tube will begin to melt, and the seal will be gone, like a fusible plug, and you lose pressure. And so consequently, they don't blow up. Although they will occasionally backfire on you, well, like this one did to me. Take a look. There you go.
There. So big,
There you go.
big fire plume. Yeah.
Wow.
Giant fire plume, and his first reaction is, well, there you go.
That was. I thought he was narrating over that,
Me
saying,
too.
"Well, there you go,"
Nope.
and it's like, "Oh no, that was his response when a fireball comes at his face." It'd be like,
In the moment.
There you go,
There you go.
That's what happened."
Yeah, and so a lot of his stuff is steam. I rode with him in that white steamer through the Burbank airport.
What?
We tooled along San Fernando from his shop. We made a right. He lives right by the airport. He lives by the side of the airport. And we literally just drove down the Burbank airport lane.
Wow.
And where everyone drops off and picks up and
He's the
everything.
fucking mayor, man.
And we just did a parade lap right through that. And the steam cars, when they're working, they worked back then.
Top speed?
I don't know, but lots of torque, like lots of get up and go. And he has an electric car from like 1903 over
What?
there too.
Ahead of the curve.
Yeah, this sort of alternative fuel stuff. It's been around for a while. Yeah, what year, you can figure it out, Chris, was his, he has an electric
look.
car
Now
from,
that-
it's not 1915 or 22. It's like 1903 or 7
Now
or
that
something.
Stu's really gonna
1909,
fail.
a Baker Electric 1909.
1909, we had electric cars. Now, same infrastructure in California from 1909, so I don't
Yeah.
know if we could
Perfect.
charge it
Yeah.
back then, but there weren't so many people driving the Baker Electrics back then.
Now, Adam, are you going to go bring him Chick-fil-A in the hospital?
That's a good idea.
I think you should do
I
that.
should. It's always weird when people you have throngs of people reaching out. So then do you want to just be one of those, or do you want to go on record as reaching out?
I'll tell you this. When my dad passed away and everybody reached out, like Brad Wialliams and so many, thank you, I remember the ones who didn't.
Oh.
So you might want to say, Jay,
Yeah.
hope you're okay.
Yeah.
All right. I will, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody brought this to my attention just today in the LA Times. There's an op-ed piece. I've realized that LA Times must sit around and just go, what does Adam not want? Who does he not want for mayor? We'll endorse that person. What policy doesn't he want enacted? We will push that policy. It's like, if I like the Rams, they're throwing their weight behind the Chargers. There's just nothing that comes out of the LA Times. It's all the exact opposite of everything that I want. And we had an op-ed today, which was what, Dawson?
It's dangerous out there on the mean streets of, well, just about any city where cars and pedestrians interact. The headline is turning right on a red light your California birthright?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
It's all we have. It's all we have.
Over the last decade, all U.S. traffic deaths have increased by 13%.
Right. Well, who's the bitch who wrote this op-ed? What's her name?
Robin Abkarian.
Robin, we also have throngs of homeless people beaked out of their brains, staggering into the intersection and stepping off the curb. So if we
Our
focus,
population goes up. Like
It
it's
says
only natural.
watch out for pedestrians
Yeah.
on the freeway.
right? Who
Yeah.
are the pedestrians in Los Angeles? It is homeless people that are high out of their fucking minds stumbling onto the street. I would argue that's the reason the numbers have gone up. And if you'd focus on that problem, then it would help with your problem. But you're like a good bureaucrat, someone who cheers on bureaucrats. You just want more rules. All right. What's Robin go on to say?
In an attempt to reverse the deadly trend, cities are seeking ways to intervene. One promising change that's catching on, prohibiting drivers from turning right on red lights. Last week, Berkeley joined the effort. to reduce the risk of cars crashing into pedestrians and cyclists by, to one degree or another, outlawing rights on reds. Policies like eliminating right on red are smart and easy ways to begin the process of deprioritizing car use in Berkeley.
Oh, that's where we're heading. Get on your feet and walk it out, bitches.
And placing lives above driver convenience. So far, the data are promising.
Yeah, it's not driver convenience. It's essentially gridlock. We've done nothing to alleviate traffic.
To alleviate traffic, like you say. We're trying to live in a high-functioning society. We're trying to make sure, as you say all the time, what's the one problem, no matter who you are in this state, that you encounter? Traffic. So anything and everything should be done, in my opinion, to alleviate traffic. And it's not, well, in spite of a few lives. It's like, well, we could all save all lives by just staying home and with our heads in the sand and our thumbs in our asses.
Zero, yes.
No deaths from car accidents then.
All right, let's see. Let me hit a spot here. Good Ranchers. Yeah, holidays. Well, the waists get bigger and the wallets get smaller. Good Ranchers wants you to save in a season of spending. Beef prices are estimated to increase another 20% in 2023. Good Ranchers is letting you lock in your price this November when you subscribe during Black Friday savings. With my code ADAM, you get their exclusive Black Friday offer for 2 free 12-ounce Black Angus New York strip steaks. Inflation-proof your meat budget. Get $70 of free USDA choice steaks and save an additional $25 on every box when you subscribe. Good protein for the year. It's Good Ranchers, right, Dawson?
Treat yourself or someone you love to Good Ranchers award-winning service and quality this holiday season. Remember to visit goodranchers.com/Adam or use code Adam at checkout to grab their best offer of the year. Black Angus is one of the premier breeds of cattle for high-quality beef, so don't have a normal Black Friday this year. Have a Black Angus Friday with 2 free steaks from Good Ranchers, American meat delivered.
All right. Let me get some clips for Brad, by the way. Brea Improv coming up Friday through Sunday. Brad always knocks it out of the ballpark over there. Also, Kansas City at the Improv Comedy Club coming up December 2nd and 3rd. And I got a front row seat to Brad's stand-up a few weeks ago, and he just crushed it, man.
Thank you, sir. And it was great to be out there with on your night with all your friends, and literally that one friend that was your childhood friend that was in the front row that every single
took the
comic
brunt
made
of
fun
it.
Chris, yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good night. We got another night coming up at the Improv Melrose tonight, I guess, as you hear this. Dane Cook's going to be there. I think Jeff Ross is going to be there. Let's see, who the hell else is going to be there? We'll
Any other
figure it out.
up-and-comers?
Yeah. All right. So we have Alex Joske. Alex is an author who knows everything about China. And China's we're in a weird place with China because they're going to eat all our lunch and drink all our milkshakes, and they're going to kick all our asses. And that's the plan. But we don't really know how to handle them. And for instance, Biden just met with China. I would have some questions about. Here's the interesting part about this whole thing, and I'll get into it with Alex. This virus destroyed economies and destroyed lives and was a worldwide pandemic. Mm-hmm. And it came from the Wuhan area of China. Somebody suggested maybe it came from the lab that's experimenting with drugs or experimenting with viruses that seem very close to this one up the road. And if you were that person, you were pilloried and pulled off of Twitter and destroyed by the New York Times.
Yeah.
That's an interesting time we're living in. We have an arch enemy who unleashed, either willing or not, a virus on the world and destroyed the world. And if you were a senator or you had a podcast and you raised your hand and went, maybe it came from the lab of virology up the thing, the entire nation turned against you.
And I still don't understand it. I remember reporting it as, oh, it came from a lab. Oh, now they're saying it came from a wet market. Like, it makes no difference to me. Which is it?
It was it was all Trump derangement syndrome, because Trump said he was calling it the Chinese virus and it came from the lab. And once Trump said it, then if you said it, it didn't matter if it was true or not, then you would get attacked because it was Trump derangement syndrome. Now, I don't know why news outlets are unable to discern or say,
just pick one.
We don't know.
Yeah, that's okay to say as well. And it eventually got to the point where even Jon Stewart, I think it was
Yes,
on
it was Jon Stewart.
Colbert Report.
It was.
Right.
Or not Colbert Report, but Late Show with Stephen Colbert, where he was finally like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. You mean the clinic that says the Wuhan COVID virus clinic?
Yeah. It didn't come from there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I said, too, if this thing came from Houston, Texas, I mean, if we had a virology lab and the thing came from Houston, Texas, and somebody said, the Los Angeles Times said it definitely came from an armadillo, and you raised your hand and went, the U.S. government's military is doing a lab that's working on the same viruses up the road from where the armadillo was, would you have been pilloried?
I don't know why.
It would have been like, yeah, well, that's definitely on the table of places that this virus could have
and by the
escaped
way,
from.
please stop calling it the Houston flu.
That's right. All right. We
Cruise
are
flu.
officially nuts, but we'll speak to Alex Joske and see what he thinks right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Did my 12-hour walk, and I recommend walking as far as you can for at least 6 hours, because that makes it easier for you not to quit. Because if you're around your house, it's easier to get back. By far, the hardest part was not having any entertainment. The walking part was the easy part. Glad I did it. Thanks a lot. Get it on.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Alex Joske, author, analyst, Spies and Lies, How China's Greatest Covert Operations Fooled the World, is coming to us from Australia. Alex?
Hi, good to be here.
All right. Glad to have you. So I guess China's kind of on everyone's mind because Biden just met with China. But give us a kind of overview of China and what they're trying to accomplish.
It's really something that's hard to escape right now. And I think it's really because we're at this point where China is building its power and it's stopped really hiding its ambitions to become a superpower around the world, to throw its weight, to have its way in international affairs. And in so many ways, I think that clashes against the things that we care about, in Australia, in the United States, about human rights, about democracy, about freedoms. So managing that rise is really probably one of the hardest problems of the century.
Is this right that we get kind of caught up in Russia and Putin, Ukraine, or even Middle Eastern terrorists, Al Qaeda? It's kind of like shark attacks. It's like it's so visceral. Look at that 22-foot great white shark. It bit that surfer's surfboard in half, But we'd be kind of fools to focus on that. Statistically, this is a larger danger to us. But China sort of keeps a low profile and looks sort of docile compared to these other evil despot rulers. But do they pose a greater danger? Does anyone pose a greater danger to the U.S. or the Western world than China?
I don't think so. I think it's only becoming more of a problem. China's still growing economically. It's already far larger than Russia, but I think we've kind of been like, frogs in a pot of boiling water that's slowly heating up, and it's only when it's sort of too late, or in this case, I think decades late, that we really realized the kind of problem that we're faced, the trouble that we're in with China, that we've been welcoming it into the world, giving it more power, giving it more responsibility. And now we're seeing, it's carrying out insane human rights abuses. It's interfering in political systems around the world. It's breaching human rights and so on.
And Alex, this is professional idiot Brad Wialliams. Just curious, what got you into this sort of area? What sparked your interest in China?
Yeah, so I'm half Chinese. I lived in China for about 6 years, and but I'm an Australian citizen. So I've always had a connection to China. I have a lot of family there, and I've always spoken some Chinese. And then when I was at university, I got fired from my job as a waiter. I was terrible at that sort of stuff. I didn't drink coffee at the time, so I could never remember any of the coffee orders and the different things people were asking for. And I needed to kind of pretend that I had a job. So I ended up working as a reporter at the university's student newspaper. And through that, I started looking at what China was doing at my university in Australia. And I found that we had this Chinese government-backed student association that would basically take directions from the Chinese embassy and go, pull newspapers off racks because they weren't supporting the Chinese Communist Party. They would go report on other students for, getting involved in protests and being pro-democracy. And really, this organization, the leaders of it, were acting as proxies for the Chinese government at my university, and that's really what got me started on this side of China.
How much of this, at least in America, is due to us being useful idiots? Like, take the whole COVID we were speaking before we spoke to you about the lab and the lab leak and where the virus emanated from. And anyone who brought up labs or leaks more than 10 minutes ago was destroyed in this country. And I kept thinking, well, okay, one, it's just an opinion. Two, it seems like it makes sense. Three, this is a person that is patriotic. We are saying we think there's something nefarious going on and that people were harmed and that people need to be held accountable. Why is every major newspaper and big tech turning on the senator or the podcaster who's floating this notion?
Yeah, it was really pretty incredible to me, the way people treated the lab leak theory with coronavirus. Like, I of course don't know what actually happened, but I think it's a pretty reasonable explanation for where this virus came from. And, I won't go over it again, but I think so much of this is just down to hubris. This fact that the US is used to being the world leader, used to being a superpower, and still, I think, has that belief essentially that the world is moving towards democratization, that this is kind of a natural, inevitable process, and that China was going through this process. But what was actually happening is, China decided very early on, I think, that the US was really its main threat, well before the US realized that China was a threat. So that means it's had decades to build its policies, build the international environment, prepare for a period when the US started realizing what was actually going on. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Gina.
It seems, just from where I sit, that we are so dependent on China when it comes to manufacturing that everything, even like recycling, like that's above my pay grade. Like, what about the factories that are making the plastic bottles? Don't look at me. I'm look at them. And I'm wondering, because we are so dependent when it comes to manufacturing, why don't the big guys do something about that if they're so worried? I guess the answer is they're not worried.
Yeah, I mean, one of the kind of really frustrating parts of working on China, in my opinion, is that more and more there is a kind of consensus that people in Washington, D.C., people in Canberra, Australia, kind of get now that we got China wrong, or that China has changed and we need to change our China policy in response to that. And, we can't rely on China for these key parts of our supply chain and our economy. If it's got the ability to just turn off that tap, like pipettes, for example, which are fundamental to all sort of medical testing. We're totally reliant on China, I've heard. And
microchips.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, microchips is a really nice area where we've still got a bit of an advantage, but China is trying to pull that back. And so there's that consensus happening, but I think it really breaks down when it comes to what we actually do about it, because that's the point where you have to say, sorry, this American company or this constituency is actually going to take a hit for, us going after China on this matter. And so it really breaks down at that sort of political level. It breaks down when you're pitting economic and security interests against each other. So
it's just so short-sighted. Like we talk about, what is it, the 300-year plan from China?
I think it's 100-year.
Oh, is it 100-year? Well, that's the thing. It's like talk about being able to see the long game. We're so short-sighted that we can't give up, because we're getting this cheap right now.
Yeah, and they must be delighted that we are forcing, or at least attempting to force, everyone to go all electric vehicles, for instance. But they're the ones who have the mines that have the materials for the batteries that we are going to need to go full electric, and that we won't let ourselves open those mines here to support those electric vehicles. There's a part of them that have to just be sitting back and laughing at us all day.
I think one of the most incredible sorts of, dilemmas here is just around solar panels and human rights, where actually a lot of the supply chains and the minerals that you need to build a solar cell come from Xinjiang, which is the same region in Western China where you've got, estimated over 1 million ethnic Turkic, often Muslim individuals in concentration camps. And a lot of those people are being put into forced labor to grow tomatoes, to produce garments, and to also produce the materials needed for solar cells. So there's actually this incredible trade-off here where, on the one hand, we want more solar panels for renewable energy to control climate change, to diversify our energy sources. But trying to do that means working with China and being complicit in some of these human rights abuses.
Well, some of the people on the farther right extremes are, floating the theory that the Bidens may be compromised by China and Hunter and Joe and the whole family, essentially trying to do a lot of business in China, and that China may have something on the Biden family. It seems far-fetched, but many things seemed further fetched like 4 years ago that have all kind of come to fruition. So everything for me is on the table right now in terms of conspiracy theories. And Biden doesn't seem to be going after China on these human rights issues or on COVID origins, and then something like fentanyl. Fentanyl is, I think the number one cause of accidental death is fentanyl or drug ODs in this country. I'll screw it up, but the number one cause of death of Americans like 18 to 34 is just drugs at this point.
It's not good no matter what the actual stat
Whatever,
is.
if I screw it up by a couple of years, it all falls under the bad category. China is opening up the fentanyl labs and bringing the materials or whatever into Mexico. The border's a porous mess. The shit is pouring through the border, and now it's all over the streets of the United States. That would seem like something to talk to China about. Like, hey, what's with the fentanyl? What's up?
What are you, Seinfeld?
What's going on with the fentanyl already? That isn't coming up. We're trying to convince them to go green. That's Biden's big push. They're not going green. They're just going to laugh us. They're opening another coal mine in the time that Biden was asking them to go green. But they have to be laughing their ass off at us, asking them to go green when they're cooking the fentanyl and have the million people enslaved. I mean, we must seem nuts but super weak to them.
That's exactly my point. It is specifically that example of manufacturing. They're like, where are you going to go? They're like, Newsom, where are you going to go? You can't go anywhere, so fuck you.
So conspiracy theories with China and Hunter and Joe and business.
Yeah, I think there's something to it in the sense that there's good evidence that Hunter Biden had relationships with and was being targeted by people who are known to have connections to Chinese military intelligence specifically. But I think it's harder to say exactly how that's influencing Biden, but it's definitely something that's there. And I mean, in Australia, we had a former prime minister enter a business relationship with proxies for Chinese spies, essentially. So this is totally in keeping with what Chinese intelligence agencies do. They try to identify political elites. They look at their family members. They build relationships with them and hope that's basically something they can use to leverage, to compromise them. In the case of Hunter Biden, he was working with a Chinese billionaire who's now disappeared called Ye Jianming. And this guy, Ye Jianming, earlier in his career, worked in Chinese military intelligence. one of his sort of top US representatives was actually convicted in New York of a whole range of bribery charges, bribing people in the United Nations, bribing people in African countries. And these are the exact same people who Hunter Biden was engaging with, and their connections to the Chinese government were actually known to Hunter Biden. You know, he was referring to this guy as China's spy master. So clearly there's something going on there.
Well, maybe we'll see a whole expose in the LA Times about that relationship. Not. Brought that one back.
Timely joke.
1990.
Yes, they would never dare do an op-ed on that. We just have to be told to wear masks and rot at red lights. So let's take something like fentanyl. I think most Americans are like, if this thing is kind of, the labs are being set up by the Chinese and the Mexicans are cooking it and muling it over here, shouldn't we talk to China about fentanyl? Why and why not? Like, why? Who? I don't know who we would speak to, but
The fentanyl czar?
China's pretty good at shutting stuff down they don't like. Is what I'm saying. Like, if China doesn't want you doing something, you will stop doing it. They're not stopping fentanyl. Now, of course, they would like us all poisoning ourselves over here. That'll just help weaken us and arguing over where COVID emanated from. But what about fentanyl? Any thoughts?
Well, here's one of the really insane things about China, which is there's an actual quote from the head of China's police force back in the 1990s, where he says, organized crime can be patriotic. So basically their policy towards mafias, triads is not they're necessarily bad because they're criminals. It's they're bad if they're not working in alignment with our objectives. So you can actually see a lot of evidence, especially in the casino industry with organized crime in places like Canada. It's really been documented that these groups are actually working with the Chinese government and have some sort of backing from the Chinese government. It's got a stake in their activities. And exactly to your point, the Chinese government can crack down on this. They're choosing not to. Exactly why, I'm not exactly sure, but it's something that they could be doing, and we need to make a louder fuss about it.
They would never, there's no fentanyl problem in China, right?
I really don't think there is.
There wouldn't be. Why would they give it to their own people?
They wouldn't tolerate it, is what I'm saying. But they can get it into Mexico.
And you talked about Canada. That made me think about, and I could be wrong, and I think the last thing any of us are trying to do is vilify an entire culture of people. That's not the point. That's not what we're doing. But with all the developing in Vancouver and like how sky high rents and sky high prices for everything that of course we're experiencing here like crazy, I believe they put into policy like no more foreign investors right now. Like we got to put that on ice. And from what I understand, most of that is coming from China. Is that like, what's the word? Is that just a way to hide funds or what? Why are we developing in other countries? What are we doing?
Launder.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, that's not all of it, but it's a pretty big part of it. You can actually kind of track when there are corruption scandals in China, when there are purges of the political system in China, people end up overseas.
Real estate.
They will park a kid or a wife or a mistress in Australia, in New York, in Canada, as a kind of safety.
Wow.
They're buying farmland here too.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That was all urban area development.
They're buying like farmland, and some of it is next to sensitive areas, and they know what they're doing. Like theirs isn't the battering ram. Theirs is ivy. Right. That's how they just grow, and no one ever walks outside and goes, is that ivy further than it was yesterday?
Yeah, no way to know.
It just is. But then you go out of town for 5 years and come back and it's engulfed the building.
Right.
And that's they're buying farmland out here. I don't know why we're selling it to them or what their rationale is for the farmland out here. They also have belts and roads, which is all through Africa and many other nations.
They're also marrying our dwarf comedian.
That's true.
Your wife.
It's insidious is what it is.
The calls are coming from inside the house.
Yeah, so why farmland in the United States and then belts and roads? Explain that policy.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the really tricky things with China that, there's a lot of genuine private activity, but so much of that is wrapped up with national objectives, with what the state is trying to get. And that means that it's really hard to say that something in China is purely being pursued for commercial interests. And even if it is, even if a company is just buying up farmland because it thinks it's a good investment, the Chinese government has laws in place that will basically allow it to tap that company and say, hey, now we want to use this farmland and install a secret listening post on it to steal data from nearby or listen to phone calls in the area, that sort of thing. There's an actual national intelligence law in China that says that you as a Chinese citizen or a Chinese company are required to cooperate when asked in intelligence and national security operations. And if you tell anyone that you're cooperating with us, you've broken this law.
So what are they doing in Africa and other sort of developing nations?
Yeah, China's heavily invested in Africa. It's trying to build supply chains there. It's trying to build, iron mining in Guinea so it doesn't have to rely on iron ore from Australia. And I think China's really pushing as far as it can, wherever it can. So it's hard to find a country that's sort of too small to be of interest to China. You have all these different Chinese government companies building advanced tech in some countries, building infrastructure. One of the really remarkable things I think about China and Africa is that China's really pioneering surveillance equipment and all these systems to basically track what everyone is doing in your city if you've got that kind of technology.
Oh, good.
And it's something that the US isn't really happy exporting to an African dictatorship, but that's something China doesn't have any sort of problem with. So you see China actually offering a lot of things to these countries that Western democratic countries wouldn't really feel comfortable doing. And so you've got China building surveillance systems, supplying technology for that kind of stuff to countries like Zimbabwe.
They give them so much money, they can't say no. And then they don't say anything when they're up to their nefarious activities. But you could also say that about China's relationship with the NBA. They essentially just go, hey, LeBron, shut up. Because we got money. And that's the insidious part of this whole thing. I hear TikTok brought up.
I have that in the news.
Every once in a while. And the folks, the same nut jobs who thought masks didn't work and thought the virus may have came from the lab, have been talking about TikTok for 3 years.
Yeah.
But I've never really known what to make of it other than it's a Chinese company and they say they're gathering data. But you could speak to that, Alex, I hope.
Yeah, I think the facts are basically, TikTok is owned by this Chinese tech company. It's pretty much admitted that TikTok data is available in China. There's pretty good evidence that, at least in some cases, posts on TikTok have been censored, in favor of Chinese government political lines. And then I think one of the really interesting things about TikTok as an app is that it's not really social media. What I mean by that is that you're not actually really interacting with other people. You're just getting this feed of content that has been selected specifically for you. You're not talking to your friends or anything like that. So it's really just a full stream of content designed to trigger your interests and to get you more interested in the platform. And that really makes it, I think, quite effective if it were to be used for some kinds of influence work. It's way better for that than something like Facebook.
God, we're so stupid. I'm wondering, you said you lived in China for 6 years and you do this and you're pretty outspoken and we know your name. Are you worried about being on anyone's radar?
Yeah.
Does that concern you?
While I was writing this book, I got 3 separate warnings from Google itself saying that foreign government hackers were trying to access my password. And this is something they don't kind of send out randomly. It's pretty uncommon, but a lot of people in the field get this kind of pressure. So basically hacking, I was officially banned from China back in 2020, so I haven't been back in quite a while.
That's something you could add to your list about something you want to do.
A rogue nation banning you.
Yeah.
Because you're a beacon of truth.
It's quite a feather in your cap.
Well, I think there are a lot of ways to get on Russian sanction lists right now. They're pretty trigger happy with that.
Yeah, where is China vis-a-vis Russia? Because while we're saying we don't want to do any more business with Russia, we don't want any more of their oil, their energy, China, who's down for power and money with anyone at any time, they're now doing a lot more business with Russia, correct?
Yeah, I think China's trying to play this funny game of acting like it's sort of neutral and just a bystander to this conflict. But as an economy, one of the world's largest economies with 1 billion people supplying all sorts of goods to Russia, you can't actually be neutral in this. You're not actually sitting it out. And Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader, talks about his bromance with Putin. He talks about a no-limits partnership with Russia. So I think it's pretty clear who they're aligned with here.
Is Xi Jinping going to be around for another 25 years? Or is there a system where somebody else would take his place? And then what are the chances that whoever took his place may change course? We speculate that with Russia. The common wisdom is, well, even if Putin is sick and on his last days, whoever replaces him is just going to go the same direction. And then some people go maybe worse. Yeah. So what's that like in China?
I think it's pretty much the same with China. I really believe that all the problems we're seeing now are driven by Xi Jinping, but they're not unique to him. And that you can look back at history, look back at the intelligence operations that I've documented in the 90s, in the 2000s, and you can see back then China trying to infiltrate foreign political systems, Chinese spies coming up with this very theory of China's peaceful rise, telling people around the world that China would rise peacefully back in the early 2000s. So they've clearly had a long-term game of pushing this kind of belief and a long-term vision to challenge the United States. And if you look at Chinese history, Mao Zedong, for example, he was leader until his death, even though in the last couple of years of his life, he was basically disabled and incoherent. He had severe illness. He could barely speak. He had to have a special interpreter who could basically interpret his mumbles and was asleep in a lot of meetings with foreign dignitaries. So China has a history of actually, following through with its leaders to the very end.
Going full weekend at Bernie's.
Mm-hmm. What should the U.S. do? What should our posture be toward China? Right now, it's sort of, live and let live, and let's not anger them. But is that correct, or what would you like if you were the president of the United States? How would you approach China?
I think the recent semiconductor policy basically really pushes back China's semiconductor industry, producing microchips by a couple of years, and that's probably the only really hard-hitting policy that this administration has made on China. But there's also really good stuff happening in terms of law enforcement prosecutions. They're going after these Chinese police and Secret Service agents who are being sent overseas to harass dissidents, to spy on people in the United States. But I really think the game is about Southeast Asia. It's about Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Central Asia. And while, the US is slowly and definitely not fast enough changing policies domestically to control what China's doing in your country, it's a whole other question about Southeast Asia. If there's a Taiwan conflict, for example, the US is going to have to rely on basing in a lot of these countries. It might have to refuel in places like the Philippines. And with all these covert influence operations, buying up elites in these countries, you could actually lose that access to those countries in a heartbeat when this sort of conflict starts. So the US needs to really be going out overseas, building strong partnerships with these countries, keeping China off these countries, and pushing back against those covert operations.
Well, the name of the book is Spies and Lies, How China's Greatest Covert Operations Fooled the World, and it's available wherever you find finer books. Alex Joske, I hope you will check in with us from time to time and give us an update on all things China.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Alex Joske, everybody. All right, let's see. Ari Shaffir is running a couple minutes late, but we got some tweetsplaining to play with Brad.
Oh, good.
Oh, boy.
All right. I think what we should do is we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do some tweetsplaining with Brad's tweets, and then Ari Shaffir will join us, and we'll do that right after this.
And now, Alcoa presents Definitely Not a Jew on the Adam Carolla Show. Dateline, El Paso, Texas. Customs and Border Protection stopped a woman hiding contraband under a blanket in her SUV as she tried to cross the Texas border from Mexico. The contraband items were 50 wheels of cheese. Definitely not a Jew.
All right. Well, Ari Shaffir is going to join us and a couple of you. We have Brad Wialliams hanging out.
Definitely not a Jew.
And we have his Tweetsplaining, which we've played with Brad here before. So, Brad, you want to cue that up?
It's time to Tweetsplain. It's not really a game. It's just where we ask you to explain your tweet. Tweetsplain. All right, so the tweet from Brad Wialliams is, my top 5 banger sandwiches.
Okay.
5, ham and cheese. 4, peanut butter banana. 3, tuna. 2, fried bologna. And 1, grilled cheese.
You damn right.
Oh,
Tweets
Brad.
later.
What do you mean, oh, Brad?
No, I'm fried bologna is so often overlooked and spat upon and judged, and it's goddamn delicious. And anyone who grew up even remotely with what do they call it, food insecurities, knows from fried bologna.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I actually made this list. I quote tweeted my friend who's a rapper. His name is Jelly Roll, and he's a very large white rapper from the South. And he was talking about how I don't care how much money I ever make, fried bologna sandwich will always make me happy. So I was like, yeah, banger sandwiches.
But
these
grew
are
up
my top 5.
You grew up out here, not in the South. So I never had a fried bologna sandwich because we're sort of from North Hollywood.
Well,
like
it was
wasn't,
processed. You wouldn't have had it anyway.
You didn't get it. Well, my dad got into bologna later.
Fried bologna with mustard is fantastic.
Done.
All right, well, let's break it down.
Melted American Kraft cheese on it. You come on. See, my mom is from Savannah, Georgia, and she made up some fried bologna sandwiches quite often for lunch.
My daughter announced she wanted grilled cheese over the weekend and tomato soup.
Oh, delish.
And
the after school
combo.
special, yeah.
Combo.
I made her both. I'm not great, but this was a pretty killer sandwich. And the way to never fuck up a grilled cheese sandwich is put a ton of butter in the pan.
Of course.
And it is the spackle of accoutrements.
Yeah.
It will cover any mistake you make as a chef.
Yeah, a bad grilled cheese sandwich is still damn good.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's dripping in butter on
Of
both
course.
sides.
Exactly.
And to take it a step further, you know what my husband does? Because he makes these crazy grilled cheese sandwiches. He'll sprinkle a little shredded cheddar on the outside and then fucking just press down on that sandwich. So you got that crisp cheese on the
Gina,
outside.
Do you want me to change your life?
Yeah.
All right. On the crust, you take hot Cheeto dust. Flaming hot Cheeto dust. You think I'm lying. You think I'm
my
lying.
God.
Put it on the crust. Put the butter in there. Fry it up. My God, man.
Not since
My God.
I've heard of people putting Cool Ranch Doritos in a pepper mill and grinding that onto their shit.
Yes.
This is why the terrorists hate us.
I love this, like, making fast food and trashy food, like, fancy. Like, oh, is this a fresh ground pepper? Well, kind of. It's Doritos.
It's ground.
It's ground.
So
That's all it is.
ham and cheese number 5.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with that. Is it grilled?
You could have either or.
I like it in
cold ham and cheese.
I like it sort of in the press.
Yeah.
Like a panini?
Yeah, like I like it that way. Peanut and banana, hard to argue with.
But whoever eats it.
Nobody. But
Nobody, but every time you do, it's like your fish and chips argument. Every time I have a peanut butter banana sandwich, I'm like, why don't I do this all the time?
Yeah.
I'm
It's
guessing
amazing.
it's smooth peanut butter, like creamy.
Yeah, and then sometimes I put a little drizzle of honey in there
Sure.
too.
Yeah.
Pretty
Then
good.
there's tuna, straight away tuna.
Love
What's
tuna
on the tuna sandwich?
For me, I'm plain, man. You do a little tuna, a little mayonnaise. That's it. That's all I need.
Can I tell you one thing that does not belong on a tuna sandwich, and it's beloved as it should be, but if you put it on tuna, you're fucking disgusting? A slice of cheese. Cheese does not belong on tuna fish sandwiches.
You're right.
I agree. And I hate celery. Too many people put celery in their tuna. I hate this. Why? What does it add?
Listen, I feel
Potato
that
chips
way.
are crunchy. Put it in there too.
Okay.
Take the celery out. What's wrong with you people?
The aforementioned fried bologna and then the straight ahead grilled cheese. Now, does the grilled cheese have to be American cheese?
No.
I've had white cheddar.
Gruyere?
I've had.
Does it need to be on white bread?
I've had some. I've had some good grilled
Sourdough.
cheese. Yeah,
I did
favorite.
sourdough for my
That's the best
daughter.
one.
Yeah.
But these are all sandwiches where if ever you're like, oh, what do I serve for lunch? Kids have friends coming over. What do I make up really fast? Always good.
Yeah.
Always
this
good.
is the go-to list.
I'll
Never
tell you
bad.
what's missing for me
Okay.
is my beloved egg salad. I never have an egg salad sandwich. It's not really available anywhere
Yeah.
if you go to a sandwich place.
Yeah.
But when I go to a deli, I do love an egg salad sandwich.
Yeah.
Smells farty. I
I've
get
never
it.
been able to get on board with egg salad.
It's unruly. It is. Well,
it
let's
can't be tamed.
Yeah.
no. It's like the sea. It's a mistress that
Right.
can never be tamed.
That's right.
See, I think my problem with the egg salad sandwich is, for me personally, there's such a chasm between an egg salad sandwich that's going to knock your socks off, but then I've had egg salad sandwiches that are like, well, I'm going to be on a toilet for the next 4 days.
Well, all other sandwiches hold together.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there's an element of a sandwich. There's a utilitarian element of a sandwich. A grilled cheese, you could successfully eat a grilled cheese sandwich being chased by a Kodiak bear.
With one hand.
And the experience would be the same as sitting on your sofa.
yes, you'd be like, well, if I'm about to go, this is pretty good.
Yeah, or maybe I can entice this bear with
sure.
what's
Yeah.
left of
Throw
it.
it.
You could run at a full sprint through a Navy obstacle course with a grilled cheese and consume it.
Yes.
And you can, peanut butter and bananas, a little more to negotiate. Peanut butter and jelly, you could do the same thing.
Sure.
Ham and cheese, you could basically pull off. Tuna, it's kind of a two-hander.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
the egg salad sandwich, you
get a
literally
spoon.
have to go down to Home Depot and hire a guy to help you eat that sandwich because you grab it, it falls out of the
bottom.
back. You
Yeah.
end up bringing... I love egg salad, but I will say this. If you are bringing a fork with you to eat a sandwich, you may have flown in the face of the notion of a sandwich.
Of it being
Yes,
a sandwich.
absolutely.
Although you're right. Yes. And it wouldn't be as good with egg salad, but it was big in the Grad house growing up. Everything was a pocket pita. That's what the kids
I have
got.
had the pocket pita egg salad.
How was
and
it?
It's good.
Okay.
It's darn good. And if you go into the mentions of that tweet, I can't bring up anything specific, but there's way too many people that were like, oh, you don't like a focaccia bread with some apples and
not
some
the point.
balsamic? I'm like,
Nope.
that's not the point.
Not the point.
It's banger sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yes, you can have some highfalutin.
We get brie and
whatever.
pear. We get it.
Okay, I'm sure it's great. It is. These are ones that they're tried and true, always good. No one complains. That's the list.
They ain't broken. All right. Next tweet, if we have Brad to tweetsplain here.
I'll tweet.
Not the result we wanted, but thank you at 5280 Miles and John Elway for giving me an amazing bucket list day with the Broncos.
What?
Yeah. For those of you who are unfamiliar, I'm a lifelong die-hard Denver Broncos fan. Yeah, I know. The year sucks. Broncos country, let's hide. Okay, that's the slogan. 5280 Miles is the mascot. Who is a fan of mine, and John Elway. You may have remembered him. He did a few things for the Denver Broncos. They invited me out to a game I went to the Broncos against the Jets. Gave me a suite to watch the game.
Wow.
On-field passes. Got to go sort of in the bowels of the stadium before the game. Posed with the 3 Super Bowl trophies, and then got to be in the tunnel while the players were coming out. The quarterback that day, Brett Rippon, actually gave me a fist bump. If you watch that video, he then proceeded to lose the game. But that's not the point.
Russell Wilson wasn't starting that game.
Yeah, he was hurt that day.
And Rippon's the son of Mark Rippon?
Yeah, from the, I don't know what you call them now, Commanders football team. They were the Redskins. Mm-hmm. There's Rippon. Comes over.
Yeah.
Daps me up all right. But yeah. And like I said, lifelong Broncos fan. So for me, this day was just absolutely incredible.
What's the Broncos connection for you?
My dad went to Stanford, and he wanted me to support a Stanford-led NFL team.
Specific.
And that gave us John Elway with the Broncos, because Elway went to Stanford, or Jim Plunkett with the Raiders. And because I don't have face tattoos or priors, I was a Denver Broncos fan. And once your team is your team, that's your team.
And does John Elway know?
Oh, about my daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say that on this show. I named my daughter Elway. That's dude. So to say,
too cute.
so to say, like, oh, are you really a fan? Yeah. All right.
Doubled down.
Yeah, my daughter Elway. If we have a future kid, it's gonna be Terrell Davis Williams. This is gonna be
from Sex. That's where Sex and the City's Carrie Bradshaw got her name.
What? Oh, Terry. Okay.
Good. Even I got that.
Took me a second, but yeah, it was a great day. Great day with the Broncos.
So you grew up in Orange County, cheering the Broncos and eating fried bologna sandwiches.
Yes, I am an enigma wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in a bologna sandwich.
That's right.
Didn't get picked on enough just being 3'0". You had to up the ante.
I wanted to give them options. I didn't just want to hear the same dwarf jokes every day. I'm like, all right, I eat fried bologna sandwiches. I'm a Denver Broncos fan, and when I was growing up, I had a stutter.
Yeah, they called him Pony Keg Man, which is a deep cut and a reference to Barrel Man.
Oh, wow. Well done.
That guy walked around that stadium in a barrel.
Oh, that was real?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Bronco
With, like, the
super
suspender-
fan. Barrel
Suspended barrel,
Yeah.
barrel and cowboy boots.
Wouldn't
and
matter if it was 15 degrees out there
I
and
love
windy
it.
in the mile high air. He was nothing but a barrel.
Wait, so what is the mascot for the Broncos?
Miles, because they're a
Mile
mile high
High.
city.
And-
So they're
look at that.
there's Barrel Man.
That's a specimen right there.
There you
Yeah.
go.
And I mean I figured the barrel covered the nipples. The barrel doesn't even
No.
cover the belly button.
No, so all I'm saying, ladies in Denver, you want a Halloween costume next year? Sexy Barrel Man. Bust it out.
Gina.
Yeah.
Slutty Barrel Man. Make it happen.
Terms of mates.
Yeah.
Guy who sits on the sofa really doing nothing all day long, has some idea about writing a novel but never gets to it.
Dated a dozen of them.
He's just a barnacle on your sofa or Barrel Man. You know what I mean? I mean, he's nuts, but everyone in the neighborhood, kind of local celebrity. You're going to get sucked into it too because he's going to help you. You need to sew a suspender every once in a while or spray a logo on the side of the barrel. Like,
By the way, he has to have income coming in. He's got season tickets every year.
season tickets.
That's a really good
You guys
question.
probably are getting like RVs comped for the
Right,
weekend during
right.
the off season because Barrel Man went in there. And,
Everyone wants to take pictures with him eating your chili.
This
Right.
is interesting because my initial response was, I'll take the barnacle. I don't want to mess with this fakakta barrel man. But you make a compelling argument, and I like that he's passionate about something. I like that he has a hobby, he has a thing. And like you said, if he's a season ticket holder, we're not poor.
All right,
Right.
Fireman
I'll take
Ed
Barrel Man.
from the Jets. Gina's got ya. Come on, slide into those DMs, Fireman Ed.
Fireman Ed just puts on a fire hat, though.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of commitment.
But they're not really affiliated with the team, right?
Well, not initially, but if you hang around long enough, you will start to become affiliated.
I know
with the team.
Hawkman. I think it's Hawkman with the Seattle Seahawks. He kind of gets his stuff comp now. The Clippers tried to kick out Clipper Darrell.
Oh.
And then I think he got back in there. But
Why was he? What happened?
I have no idea. I can't speak to it, but I remember there was a trending thing on Twitter one day where it was like Clipper Darrell was saying he wasn't allowed to the stadium or his season tickets were revoked or something like that. But
And then
you can be affiliated with the team.
Then there was the guy with the Carolina Panthers. It was just a huge black man who had the Mr. Heat Miser wig. Do you remember him?
That's not real.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to, I don't know if he's still doing it, but if you go back, Carolina Panthers, number one fan, circa 2008 or 5 or something, you're going to see a big brother with a heat miser wig on. And I don't even know what he called himself.
Wow. Troll doll.
That's Catman.
Catman and Surfer.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, and in his little shoulder pads, he has 2 dead cats.
Yeah. Yeah, endangered species as well. Yeah, be curious, Chris, who around the league, like the Rams used to have the watermelon heads, but culturally that became,
Can't do that.
Third rail.
Problematic.
Yes, problematic. There was for many years, the Dallas Cowboys had another big brother who just dressed in full, not Dallas Cowboy regalia, but sort of blue and white, spats, or not spats, chaps and the vest.
I like that.
Kind of a sheriff.
Sure.
And he was the guy. There was then another big brother who was the Washington Redskins at the time with the big headdress on.
Yeah.
Who did, and I will say this about those guys.
And they had the hogs too. They had
They had the hogs.
Yeah.
They had the hogs as well.
Grown large men wearing dresses and pig snouts.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are you talking about porkies? Or what are we doing?
There were huge men dressed as women.
Yeah.
Okay.
And who had...
There's the hogs.
Oh, my God. And why is this?
Because the offensive line...
They're the Hogettes, it says.
The offensive line for the Washington Redskins in the early 80s, late 70s were called the Hogs.
Oh.
So they dressed as hogs.
It's
I
very-
don't know when the dresses came in. I don't know if they were all just huge Eddie Izzard fans or
Yeah, it's very some like it
very,
hot.
very progressive. I don't know. But
Wow.
yeah, they identify as oink.
So you guys really know, I mean, they're in the zeitgeist enough that you're just rattling off these people.
Well, because also every broadcast of that team, they show that fan. They always cut to the Raiders fan.
Right.
That's the Darth Vader.
The Juggalo.
Yeah, they always cut to those fans.
Oh, sorry. Breaking news. I just asked my husband if he remembers the Panthers guy because that's where he's from. He said he died in 2019. Very sad.
Doing
to
what he
hear.
loved.
Yeah. Is there anyone for the Chiefs? There has to be.
It's problematic.
Yeah.
You can't show them.
They had the guy in the headdress
Sure.
and stuff, but
The tomahawk chop.
But the headdress guy was more of a Washington Redskins guy. I don't remember what the Chiefs had. The barrel man was a mechanic for United Airlines. He could have comped you some tickets.
There you go. That would have been great.
I already chose him, so this is great.
Yeah, and that because I know Denver is a hub for United Airlines,
Oh, yeah.
so that makes a lot of sense.
What does that say?
This is X Factor. He's the
X.
Chiefs super fan.
boy.
Guinness World Record for most hours of football watched in one go. He sat through 70 straight hours of NFL on TV.
What?
Look,
Do you want to do the segment where we're at a dinner party and you have to brag about your son?
yeah.
Jesus.
Also, look, maybe I'm spitting in my own mirror here, but, all right, Guinness Book of World Records podcast leader Adam Carolla here saying, we don't need a record for everything. You passing out on a sofa and forgetting to shut the TV set, it's not mean you're a record center.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's save that for fingernails or how many nickels you can snatch off your elbow when you
Sure.
pile it
Yeah,
up 22
right.
high. Things that take dexterity and
Yeah.
skill.
Yeah.
Something.
You just hanging around watching the NFL Network and,
Yeah.
and
Who
not
doesn't?
having a job to go to on Monday.
Not
Does not
impressive.
a record make.
See,
Thank
the only objection I have to that, and I'm in Brian's space, so this is where I will shit on your point.
Sure.
Is does it make a good photo op? Because the fat twins that were in every Guinness Book World
on
Record
the
book,
Honda Trail
Right.
bikes.
but they were on those bikes, made a great photo.
Yes.
So they didn't really accomplish anything by
Iconic.
being the world's fattest twins, but they took a great photo. If
This
this guy
guy-
can take a great photo, I'm in.
He just looks like an extra from Idiocracy.
Yeah.
He actually has an agent, and you can book him for your events.
Jesus, you know what? Then God bless and God.
I'm sure he's on Cameo too. You
All
can
right.
get him to wish your friend happy
We got
birthday.
another Brad tweet.
Yeah.
Good response. Enthusiastic.
Could have never foreseen this one coming.
I know. Oh, sorry.
Wow.
Roxy, I don't know what I did.
Brad,
I mean,
I deserve it. It's fine.
good stuff.
Brad says, R.I.P. Gallagher. There's a lot you can make fun of him for. The Gallagher 2 story, Sledge-O-Matic, Run for the Governor. But if you take away the hammer, he was one of the most original, intelligent voices in comedy. Specials were legendary. I only met him once. Something else.
there's a second tweet. Yep.
He came backstage. It was strange to me. I was backstage at a comedy club, and the club owner told me Gallagher was in the audience. Not to do time, not to make a show, just to see comedy. It was strange during doing a show for a comedy icon sitting front row. But he came backstage afterwards. We had a nice talk. R.I.P. legend.
Literally just came to see Brad perform.
Yeah.
Where was this?
I've had so many instances at this club. I don't know if it's still around. It's Crackers in Indianapolis. That's a real club, and this is the same club. It made an appearance in one of my specials where I told the story about I got to the green room one time, and there was a dwarf in the green room, and he said, "Hey, Brad," and I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up? What's your name? What are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, I just walked in the front door, and then they just escorted me back here to the green room."
Oh,
So they
yeah.
thought, it's another. There can't be two. So, but what happened was I was backstage at Crackers, and the manager came to me and said, "Hey, Gallagher's here." And normally when you hear that stuff, you're like, "Oh, so he wants to do a guest spot. He's in town. He wants to get some time. Cool." And he goes, "No,
What year is this?
this is 2012." 2013. And then he's just in the audience, and he sat very close. And with that hair, it's kind of hard to miss him.
Right.
So I was just doing my show while Gallagher is just staring up at me like, does he want me to, do I do a tribute? Like, I can't do the whole watermelon thing, but I can jump on something and smash it. Do I do turnabout as fair play? And then at the end of the night, I do the free meet and greets, and he waits in line. He waits all the way. He comes up to me, and I'm like, "Hey, what, Gallagher? Hi, what are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, my wife's a fan of yours, so we just came out here to see a comedy show. She wants to take a photo with you and stuff." It was just very surreal, but nice guy. And
he got caught up like Charo did. Charo became a caricature. Could you?
Right.
And she
That hair.
she'd hack everyone's name up and mispronounce all the idioms and the sayings and everything. But then she would sit down and play flamenco guitar.
Incredibly.
blow you away.
Incredible, right.
Yeah.
And so Gallagher got all associated with the Sledge-O-Matic, but he was a very funny stand-up.
His bit, I don't know if you can find it, guys. His bit on the English language, that bit alone is so intelligent.
Is that the one with the flip cards?
I'm not sure. It's he starts talking about how poem
Yes,
is P-O-E-M, gnome is G-N-O-M-E.
No, you're right, yes.
And it's
That's
just
a great one.
It's an incredible bit, and you really kind of get lost about his joke writing ability when you just think, oh, he's the guy that smashes watermelons and occasionally has heart attacks on stage.
Yeah, he was a very smart comedian, and he was a kind of wordsmith.
Yes.
And in a world where people are comedians can be lazy sometimes.
I know. Some just rely on tropes we get it. You're little.
You're short.
You're short. Tell us something else.
Don't want to write a joke, so you write a word on a ping pong ball and he takes it from the audience. Well, the landscape is littered
Zero show
with
prep.
lazy comedians. He was a wordsmith
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah. You
He's
can tell.
one of those people that Had we ever, well, maybe we did every once in a while, but had we ever really talked about the majesty of Gallagher before he died? Like, these are people that it's hard to remember what they do until they come back up for some tragedy.
And his crazy kind of, and his look and his mannerism, they just sort of, it was almost
that mime thing going on.
It was almost like he was battling against his brilliance.
Yeah.
And it's a little of that, you know, we got a little modern version with like a little Kanye West. Like, you're out there fighting against, you were
mental illness?
No,
Jews?
he's you guys don't know where I'm going here?
Not yet, no.
All right, when I say Kanye West, what do you think of?
Jews?
Well, you don't.
No, I think
someone that some people think is brilliant and others
a troubled
don't.
genius.
Many more people think what when I go Kanye West?
Genius.
Okay.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I said Gallagher was fighting against his genius with all this other crazy stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
I think of
Kanye West.
Brad.
I mean, he's batshit insane, and he married a Kardashian. But
but
on top of all that, he was a brilliant producer and
right. But if I would have asked you 8 years ago, Kanye West,
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
you just go, all right, Chris. If I asked you Kanye West 10 years ago, what would you have
I'm
said?
sitting in the Bald Bryan chair.
Yes.
This is what happens.
He doesn't know. Okay, I'll answer my own question.
Thank you.
Kanye West, nut job. Kanye West 8 years ago, genius.
Got it.
That's
Sorry.
what I'm saying. He competed against, he's created a narrative that is not helping his legacy.
Right.
Got it.
Oh, now I see what you're saying. Kanye West 8 years ago.
well,
how we
I
think
set the table with Gallagher, which is, we all discussed he was a wordsmith and a genius, but his hair was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He said crazy shit, and he smacked things with a sledgehammer, and that's how we know him.
And
Right.
It's crazy prop comic.
Yeah, and
not wordsmith, not Ward Saul.
The Gallagher 2 story, for those of you who don't know, is just insane.
We talked about it the other days, brother.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't know all the nuts and the bolts of it.
I mean, neither do I. I just know, like, the brass tacks of it. But just the fact that, people would buy a ticket because they would see, oh, Gallagher 2,
Yep.
and then it wouldn't be him.
And Gallagher said, you can have the act on one condition, that there is no mix-up of which Gallagher is on stage. He said, you got it, boss. And there was no way to tell.
But if you use the name, it's impossible not to. All right. Is Ari Shaffir going to show up, or are we just going to soldier on and do some news?
He is supposed to show up, but they're checking on him right now.
He had a great
just on the phone
special.
with him. That's why I didn't know that. I knew you were going for genius. I promise. I was on the phone.
He's damaged. He's damaged
Brad,
his
turn it
own
off.
stock, is all I'm saying. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We got news from every Ari Shaffir, but, we got Brad Wialliams, so we don't need Ari Shaffir. And we'll do that right after this.
So I decided to bump this to the top, and it's literally a series of screenshots that I'm going to read to you, and I promise there's a reason. Okay. There is this great account on Instagram called House and Habit, and the woman that does that follows all the big news stories, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, or Weinstein, Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, she's on it. Mm-hmm. And she is sitting in the courtroom currently with the Weinstein trial. Mm-hmm. And she had so much to say about Jennifer Siebel Newsom taking the stand.
Yeah.
I really wanted to read this to you.
She's the first partner.
The first partner of
I don't think we
California.
can even say lady. We have to say partner
She
now.
doesn't say it.
Because we don't have other problems in
That's right.
California. We're down to this.
And, when you're reporting, you give the facts. But, sometimes when you're reporting through an Instagram account, you could give it a little bit of flavor. She did start all of it by saying basically how much she hates the Newsoms. But she said, so far, she's just like Amber Heard's understudy. Says, first off, the entire court hallway has to walk 50 feet back to the other end of the hallway. We all line up and then back up to the opposite end like children whenever she passes by. Every reporter is forced to leave their laptop or conversation to part the sea for Ms. Newsom to enter the courtroom. We're all cursing her silently under our breath because it's causing such a scene. It's the most absurd thing I've ever witnessed in a courthouse. So every time she comes in, everyone has to get up and move aside. I don't know if it's a security thing.
Yeah, I wonder
Normally
why.
that's just reserved for the judge.
Thank you.
All rise. That's it.
She goes on to say she comes armed with support too, naturally. 18 plus women, some are Cosby victims, trail her like a queen as she enters the courtroom. This leaves hardly any room for reporters. But all of the major mainstream media is oddly here today, which means they were tipped off or telepathic. Prior to this, big media is rather scarce in the courtroom daily. No Newsom is going to greet an empty audience. On the stand, she sits with a victim relief guide. She's shockingly scattered and rambling when she speaks.
What's a victim relief guide?
I've never heard of that in my life. So I don't know, Chris, if you could look that up real quick. I'm going to continue reading. She sounds way younger than she is.
Little girl voice.
She has a Valley Girl dialect and answers sometimes with totally. She goes from hysterical fits of tearless crying to completely composed recounts of her career motives. At one point, she does a little shimmy when she admits to being nervous, but is sobbing when she's forced to point out and identify Harvey in the courtroom. She reminds me so much of Amber Heard, over-the-top hand gestures and forced crying that dissolves instantly with each question. She's actually uncomfortable to watch. I see Weinstein's 2 female attorneys connect with the slightest eye roll when she says she sometimes, unfortunately, ran into him at events. Her answers are long and rambling. They go nowhere and answer nothing. At one point, she cries out loud that...
Well, that's... probably what drew Gavin to her initially.
Two
like,
peas in a
hey,
pod.
what do you like talking about? Nothing. But like nothing,
violins
just
voice.
zip it. No, nothing in a circle.
Yeah.
I like circle nothing talk.
I love the sound of my own voice.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was hearts and stars from there.
Oh, that's what drew them together.
This is
nothing
the last
circle talkers.
This is the last paragraph. At one point, she cries out loud that Harvey knew I was an empath.
Really?
It's like watching...
I don't think he knew what an empath was. I
Great.
barely knew.
It's like watching an outdated soap opera court scene. The judge, slightly swooning in a mask above, clearly loves her because she's allowed to expand on these senseless tangents without any of the strict redirects and interruptions we've typically seen. Nearly all of the defense objections are overruled. I mean,
the
talk about
judge
painting a picture.
Got to know where his bread is buttered. And then... because if the judge is super shitty to the wife or the governor, that's going to be tough on the career.
Yeah.
And this is so crazy that she would even be involved in this because we've all been on the women's side.
Yeah.
So far, we're all team
yeah.
victims, and then Jennifer
Absolutely.
comes up and parades like a queen.
What is the story? And Chris can look for it. There is a story about her trying to enlist Weinstein
For her documentary, right?
No, this was for something else. She went to, okay. Gavin Newsom was fucking his partner's wife. And it was not good news for Gavin Newsom, who was fucking his partner's wife because he's a delight. Fucking sociopath piece of shit that you retards in California voted in overwhelmingly because you're fucking idiots. And by the way, you guys get fucking played like a fucking 3-string ukulele, you fucking pussies. This guy shows up the fucking Brill Cream and you go, that guy knows what he's doing. No, he's a sociopath. But all right, he fucking schooled all you retards and fine, you voted for him. But he fucks his friend's wife. And then she, his first partner, goes to Weinstein and says, hey, you know a lot about this shit. We'd like this to go away. So how does this work?
Oh, wow.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
What is this like?
LA Times is going to do a big expose on it any day now because they're just they do hard reporting. So that story's coming soon.
Oh, boy.
Fucking bought and paid for fucking pussies who aren't even journalists. Jesus Christ. Yes, because no one knows the story because it's not going to be reported on CNN, LA Times, New York Times. It's not going to be pushed out there.
Well, and here we have something. New York Post, Jennifer Siebel Newsom asked Harvey Weinstein for sex scandal advice 2 years after alleged rape.
Wait, you say it's LA Times?
No, New York
it's
Post.
a newspaper on a coast away, LA Times. Do some fucking reporting, would you fucking bought and paid for shills?
And
Jesus Christ.
also, you know who else?
And by the way, anyone who doesn't know everything? That's because you go to the same outlets for everything all the time. That's why nobody knows anything. I read the Times. I read the New York Times. I listen to CNN online. Yeah, they don't report any of this shit. That's why you don't know any of this shit. That's why you assholes didn't know anything about COVID the whole time. Because you get your news from one spot. Thank you.
Diversify your portfolio.
Diversify.
You know who else is not a fan of Jennifer Siebel Newsom? Remember when Rose McGowan had thoughts about that?
Yes.
Trying to hush her up, and I think when did you say she's like in Mexico now?
She's somewhere.
Yeah.
What was this story and like how long? I don't know if she was married to Newsom at that time.
Or was it Guilfoyle at the time?
Yeah.
That story's insane.
Oh,
That's an insane story. What was this story? Well, you can look for it.
Sorry,
anyway.
It takes quite the person to go to the Harvey Weinstein trial and make anyone say anything other than, well, that guy's a fuckhead.
Yes, you're right.
Like, what? Like, it takes a lot for us to go like, oh, man.
When we talk about caricatures, and
Yeah.
obviously this spans political anything, so it doesn't matter what side you're on.
Sure.
Is there any more villainous caricature power couple than Newsom and Kimberly Guilfoyle?
Man.
My God.
Yeah.
It
Both
doesn't
sides
get-
of the aisle.
it
just
doesn't
gets
get greasier than that.
Feels slimy, and that's just not talking about the hair product.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
What is?
You just want to read the article?
Yeah.
Okay.
When is it from?
That headline we just read was from yesterday.
Oh.
Wow.
I'd heard about it before yesterday, obviously, but go ahead.
All right. Jennifer Siebel Newsom, the wife of Gavin Newsom, sobbed as she described Harvey Weinstein's distorted and, quote, fish-like genitals
Yeah.
during her bombshell testimony.
Oh, yeah.
At the
Fish-like.
That's the only one. That's the only thing I want out of this whole trial. Well, A, I want Harvey to suffer. B, I need the artist rendering of the genitals because I've heard so
Yes.
many people describe this thing. It sounds like the alien popping out of the chest. It sounds
Fish-like.
weird.
Fish-like.
Yeah, fish-like.
Flaccid-y?
I don't.
It's got gills.
It's the problem with using
It sings
fish
under the sea. I don't know what's happening.
as a description is, you got cod, you got sea bass, you got
Sturgeon.
flounder, you got
Crustaceans.
sturgeon.
Sure.
I mean, I could keep going.
Hammerhead.
Walleye.
Yeah. Salmon.
And then there's all anemones and
Right.
the squid.
Mollusks, crustacean.
What? You got to narrow it down,
Thank
baby.
you. The
You can't-
lot under that water.
Yes, sorry.
So yes, fish-like genitals. During
You
her
got to
bomb-
pick a fruit. You got to pick a fruit. That's the only cock references there are. Banana,
Right.
pear.
Eggplant.
I need a fruit. All right, sorry, go ahead.
During her bombshell testimony at the disgraced movie producer's sexual assault trial on Monday, identified in the court as Jane Doe 4, Siebel Newsom broke down in tears recounting how Weinstein allegedly raped her in 2005 at the Peninsula Hotel in Beverly Hills. Quote, "I'm standing. I'm resisting," she said. "Horror. I'm trembling. This is my worst nightmare. I'm just this blow-up doll that he's just trying to masturbate off of." When asked by Deputy District Attorney Marlene Martinez to describe Weinstein's physique, Newsom said, "Lots of bruises, markings, yellow and green, lots of stretch marks on his belly. Very not physically fit at all. Looked uncircumcised.
It's humiliating.
And strange, though, kind of fish-like. The penis, something was distorted in the testicles. Lots of skin down there."
You getting hot, Gina?
This is fucking brutal.
Wow.
Siebel Newsom, a former actress. Oh, and then they go on about her, and that's pretty much it.
No.
Oh, let's see. Oh, Siebel agreed to meet Weinstein in his hotel suite to discuss a film project, and because, quote, he could make or ruin your career. Once they were alone in the room, however, Siebel Newsom said Weinstein changed out of his suit into a robe, then started to manipulate and threaten her while mentioning several actresses' names. She said Weinstein penetrated her private parts with his fingers and then his, quote, deformed penis.
Christ.
This is
so hard to hear.
It stings to laugh, but at the same time, my God.
Well,
I'm going to
go
talk
ahead.
to my kids. Like, you want to get into show business? Let me explain to you what it really is. Just read this story. That is show business. Is this a profession you want to enter? Sorry, keep going.
Siebel Newsom tearfully said, "He knows this is not normal. He knows this is not consent," adding at first Weinstein couldn't get an erection. "And then he puts on part of his penis inside of me because he pushes me back against the bed," she said. "It's not staying in because his penis is so weird and messed up."
This is This is your worst night. This is worse than any rapist cellmate or solitary confinement. They should free him right now. You have suffered
really bad.
enough.
As much as I may disagree with certain policies and man, this is good though.
Yeah,
good on her for this part.
Yeah,
this part is great.
And whenever you're trying to stuff your dick like you're trying to put a sleeping bag back into the pouch, that's sexually. It's time to stop.
Yeah.
Take a breather. Get some Gatorade.
Tap out.
Just tap out.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not happening.
It's not happening
grab
tonight.
A Viagra.
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
His penis is so weird and messed up. He realizes this. I was just worried I was going to get some disease. It was so gross. Siebel Newsom said she was frozen in fear, but put her hand on Weinstein's penis to, quote, try to make him stop. Oh, I just made some noises to get him to ejaculate faster, Siebel Newsom said. Just like pleasure noises. After Weinstein ejaculated, Siebel Newsom said she was speechless. I just want to get the fuck out of there, she said in tears, pardon my language. When asked by Martinez why she continued to correspond via email with Weinstein even after the alleged rape, Siebel Newsom said she felt what happened was a, quote, one-off thing and that Weinstein had gotten married. I tried to put what happened into a box.
A one-off thing?
Yeah.
Is that how rape works?
You're just jogging in Central Park and a guy comes out of a shrub and rapes you, and then you correspond with the email because he got it out of his system. It's a one-offer. Yeah, he was powerful and had something she still wanted.
Quote, I tried to put what happened into a box, even though it came out at times, she said, and my sadness and fear changed.
Sounds like The Encounter.
And my sadness and fear changed at times into anger. Siebel Newsom was also asked about an email she sent to Weinstein in 2007 in which she sought his advice when Newsom was mayor of San Francisco.
There it is.
In a prior ruling, Judge Elisa Lynch granted prosecutors permission to use the email, which mentioned an affair Newsom had in 2005 with an aide.
Oh, it's fucking one of his partner's wives. Interesting. Good dude, though. You know, want him in charge of policy.
Oh, boy.
And I guess when he was talking about freedom in California and freedom to love, I guess he was talking about fucking underlings.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's talking about his own office.
I thought he was talking about gay marriage, but
No.
all right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
He's talking about the staff.
Okay.
Quote, I believe that Harvey Weinstein had relationships with the press and understood how to handle the press and thought he could be helpful, Siebel Newsom said when she was asked about the email on Monday. During a 15-minute cross-examination, defense attorney Mark Worksman hammered Siebel Newsom about a $500 campaign contribution Weinstein made to her husband's campaign. Siebel Newsom said her husband's staff had asked for the donation at her suggestion, but that the money was returned after the Me Too movement. Quote, when did you tell Gavin Newsom about his allegation of sexual assault? Workman asked. I told him that Harvey was sketchy at different times, and he picked up on it himself when we met him, she replied. During his opening statement, Workman made a dig at Siebel Newsom, saying, today she is the wife of Governor Newsom. She's the first partner of California. She's made herself a prominent victim in the Me Too movement. Otherwise, she'd just be another bimbo who slept with Harvey Weinstein to get ahead in Hollywood.
Wow.
Wow. This guy's going for the jugular, man.
Well, he was the same. Harvey's own attorney was the one that was like, look at him. He's not George Clooney. He knows what he looks like. His own attorney.
He needs that, the sign Quincy Jones put in front of the recording studio for We Are the World, like check your ego at the door.
Yeah.
That should have been in front of that courthouse. Like, Harvey,
Yeah.
I know you got a big ego, but you're going to have to check it because we're going to get into some shit about your dick looking like a squid and weird and
You want out of this or not?
blotchy and he disrobed and
gonna
he
get
had
a lot
weird
worse
yellow
before it gets
marks
better.
on him stuff and then his own guys looking at him. Look at this guy's built like a fucking beanbag chair. Who would want to fuck him?
And forgive me if I'm wrong. Isn't this like the second trial? Isn't this like the
Yes, this is the LA trial.
right? But like so the New York one already happened.
Oh, he's not getting out.
So it's like if you're Harvey, don't you just say how do we not let this even happen?
Yeah.
Like what? Because what's the point? I'm never getting out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't.
Oh, he
understand
doesn't
that.
have a choice.
Oh, okay.
They brought him from New York here. Well, because if you're a DA, You want big, high-profile cases
Sure.
on your
And-
on your brag sheet
Talk
because you
about
got to run
yeah,
for something.
And it's talk about a layup too.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're
You're
gonna
look good.
fly him back to L.A. and we'll
Sure.
try him in L.A. and then they'll get those W's on their
Horrible.
record.
And again, it must just be, I don't know if it's a personality disorder or what, but if all that happened and she just could have said it like a calm adult, then sure. But if she's flailing around and acting sort of maniacal, I don't get how that helps.
It's got to be such a weird debate in her head where it's like, yes, she has to give the testimony of the worst moment of her life, and that's got to be gut-wrenching and heartbreaking, and my heart goes out to her for that. But at the same time, she's a first partner. She's got political affiliation, so it's like, all right, every answer she gives has to also enhance the campaign and the office and the couple and everything. Like,
Well, so far she did him dirtier than all the other victims
But also,
combined.
you
Well
just
done.
see how scuzzy all politics are.
It knows no political affiliation.
Ari Shaffir has
What's
entered.
up, guys?
Hey.
Good to see you.
Brad, are you part of this show?
today I am.
Okay.
I'm in
You got
charge.
the sheets in front of you like you're like a regular.
Yeah, I'm in charge of sound
buddy?
effects.
Good to see you.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
Yeah.
God, Brian's
Ari,
gonna murder you.
you're 45 minutes late, so
That's my fault.
oh, I get it.
For
So
traffic. Somebody from place to place.
we
My
will
bad.
do 15 minutes, and we'll suspend the rest of the
Got
news,
it.
and we'll talk to Ari Shaffir,
Fuck the news.
who's here.
Welcome. Happy
Ari,
Good.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
it's got a new comedy special out, and it's called Jew, and you can watch the full special on YouTube. It premiered a couple of weeks ago.
It's great. It's hilarious. Very informative.
Thanks.
As a Jew, very informative.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
even better. Yeah.
Well, you grew up in a
Educator.
pretty Jewish household, right?
Yeah, pretty Jewish. Yeah.
Conservative, yes?
Orthodox.
No, Orthodox.
Orthodox.
I grew up conservative.
Oh.
That's nothing
said-
compared
How's
to
that?
Ari.
Raised in a
Non-kosher.
conservative Jewish household, but I don't think they meant conservative like
I think they meant like no hookers.
Right.
Ari,
right.
you taught me what the Shabbos Goyim was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You could be one. You just got to turn on lights for people. They'll hit strongly.
I mean, as long as the light switch is pretty low. I mean, if it's high, that's going to be.
Did you have a Shabbos Goyim?
No, we didn't have one. We just like made sure we did tape like sheets over the light switches so you don't fuck up and turn it on.
Oh, really?
Muscle
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah,
Was
you have
it-
But
habits.
if it's like you left the stove on, you'd have to like talk to your neighbors for the first time ever.
I love the notion of the Sabbath, for instance.
In what
I think
way?
it's good for us.
Take a break.
Yeah, it's just a forced break. Like people who practice these things, even though they don't, it's an inconvenience or modern day or everything's. You know, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I'm old. Shit was closed on Sunday.
Yeah.
Shit was closed on Sunday. That was your Sabbath. Like, you may have
Forced
wanted
Sabbath.
to go shopping and
Yeah.
buy toys or whatever the temptation was on a Sunday. Shit's closed.
Couldn't do it.
You couldn't do it. And so you were then forced to go out and, like, play a pickup game of basketball or something.
That's exactly what we do.
Yes.
Yeah. Play basketball, play non-electricity related things. And also now with like social media, you could use a day off.
Oh,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Kanye West could use one day off.
Use one day off.
24
Just
hours.
Friday sundown to Saturday sundown.
So
Ari, so do you look at this special titled Jew, which
Yeah.
is available on YouTube? So when all the Kanye, Kyrie stuff is happening, are you just like, sweet, this is going to help me?
Dave Chappelle.
Hell, I haven't seen that one yet. But I assume it's great. No, I was sort of saying sweet, but also I could see a world where they go so far the other way that they go, nah, we're taking down anything even remotely
Okay.
that's possibly anti-Semitic.
Playfully anti-Semitic.
Yeah, you know when they go hard on like we're not allowing anything,
Yeah.
they go too far.
Oh,
I
well,
was a
yes.
little worried about it.
It's got to be a bad look, though, to where it's like, hey, we're fighting anti-Semitism, so we're taking down Ari Shaffir's comedy special.
You see that black chef? He made like a pancake mix, and he put himself on the cover with a chef hat, and that Facebook was like racist. Take
Oh,
it
boy.
off.
Oh, really?
He was like, it's me, it's my company. Like, no way, that's racism.
I didn't see that. Yes, the worst society that when society announces we have zero tolerance for X, Y, and Z, they always fuck it up.
Yeah, it's crazy how intolerance can be a bad thing.
Yes, but they have zero tolerance for intolerance. And it's sort of like when you announce there's a gun-free zone. That's great, except for the dudes with the guns know it's a gun-free
Don't tell
zone. So
them
they
that.
show up with
Yeah.
guns.
Yeah.
You're like, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking about crime, but I was watching some footage of some poor 12-year-old girl. These guys, crime's getting brazen. Now, it used to be second-story men and safe crackers and pickpockets. Oh,
raised
my
in the
God, do I
1800s.
miss a pickpocket. Do you
So
even know
great.
you were
Not
robbed
anymore.
until after the check comes at the meal? You know what I mean?
My necklace.
This was a couple of guys on a scooter just riding down a sidewalk in New York, like on a Vespa. And if they would pass anyone with a necklace, they would just grab it.
And keep going.
And we're now at the point, where we need
Oy vey.
breakaway necklaces because they grabbed this 12-year-old girl's necklace and they were just dragging her down the sidewalk. We need necklaces that are not too hardy because you
How
will
about
get
this?
dragged
We all
around.
wear suicide vests, and so if you start to get robbed, you take the guy out with you.
I rarely hear
good.
Jews
Yeah.
actually exalt the virtues of a suicide vest.
I'm an outsider, Adam.
He thinks out of the box.
I try to think. It would slow down. A couple suicide bombings on an attack would slow down thieves.
Yes, this was up there with my airbag in the steering wheel of the automobile, which is, I thought people are getting a little fast and loose with their driving. They're texting, they're looking at other stuff, they're completely checked out.
Yeah.
Because we're surrounded in crumple zones and airbags, and there's so much no one dies in a car wreck anymore. You used to have to really pay attention, otherwise you would die. The dashboard was
No.
made of steel. You had no head, you had no shoulder harness.
You know,
Your-
seatbelt.
Your head would just whip forward and smack the dashboard, and your head. Remember, like, went through the windshield.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys
Yeah.
going through the
That's why I
windshield.
said you had to wear a fucking seatbelt because you could attack someone else. on the way out.
I said if you took every like 70,000th wheel airbag and you just filled it with moose jizz, that would keep people on the straight and narrow. Just thinking, there's an off chance that
I'm
could
gonna get
go
a face
full
full of-
moose bukkake if I even tap the car
Now
in
I'm
front
dead
of me.
and covered in moose cum.
No,
That's-
you'd be.
You'd be
Oh
safe.
yeah, I haven't worked that part
That's
out.
how they're
yet.
going to find you. Yeah.
You just drown in moose.
He died doing what he loved.
Just sucking off mace.
How's the world treating you, Ari? You've said a lot of controversial things.
You know, I
in
like
the-
to stir the pot. You
in
get
the,
it.
in the past, and then everyone jumps on you. But
Yeah.
then at a certain point, you become like Dave Chappelle smoking, which is none of us could show up to SNL and light a cigarette and walk
He
out
does
on
this telly, He
stage.
just lights up, and we're like, we're not allowed to smoke here. And he's like, I am. And you're like, damn,
Yeah.
you are.
He knows it.
But like Snoop Dogg did with weed, he's done with cigarettes,
South Park's
and
done
maybe.
with-
Yeah, maybe you're doing that with controversial statements.
I
like,
think at some point you'll find new people that don't know me yet. They're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
You're like, "Sweet, I still have people left to attack."
Yeah,
To
are
piss
you
off.
finding people are buying tickets to see you just because they're like, well, Herb, we should go see a comedy show tonight, and then they're in the front row and you say something?
It's gonna be a problem with this Jew stuff where I'm talking about Judaism for an hour and a half. You're gonna show up to my next hour, and it's just about sucking off mooses, and then I'll be like, "Oh, this isn't what I expected at all." So,
Yeah, so you're going around like kind of like the whole Bob Saget thing, where it's like, oh, he's America's dad, and he just has the grossest
filthiest-
Dirtiest
And I
joke.
had two different old couples leaving my shows in Chicago. Said to the management, "Go, it's not enough that he's saying that school shootings are a good thing. It's that everyone else is laughing about it."
oh yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm not doing this to piss you off, but it's a nice extra detail.
There's sometimes when you have a heckler or someone who just leaves, but then you find out why, and you're like, good.
Yeah, right.
Been to herd.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm not for you.
You weren't supposed to be here.
Yeah, I don't know what these people, what conversations they had where they thought a comedy club is a good idea for them to be at when they're obviously not good at sitting there and listening to someone else talk for
Yeah.
a while.
I'm easily offended, but like, yes, you
I feel that way when I see like, Rotten Tomatoes score and, No Country for Old Men gets 89%. And that meant 11% of the
Didn't care for
critics
it.
went, what is this?
That's not how a bowling alley is.
It's not, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But you did know what this was, and
Yeah.
wasn't this a good version of what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, or something like Dark Side of the Moon on
Right.
YouTube.
Right.
And they'll be like, nah, who's disliking?
Negative comment. Yeah.
What were
Chris, you ever
hoping
find
for?
that scooter on the sidewalk pulling the 12-year-old by the
to see that.
necklace? I can't figure out whether they got hold of her necklace or something else. It looks like her necklace, but they were dragging her around.
Jesus. We live in a time where they tell women not to wear ponytails because you could get yanked by it. As you would say, what the fuck year is this?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. That's why the sisters wear extensions,
Thank
because
you.
it breaks
That's
away
the
like a lizard's
breakaway.
tail when they scrap in front of the club. That's the evolution. I'm not making that up.
Yeah, that's right.
Ari will back me up.
I'll back that up.
I growing up conservative Jewish, I know a lot about Judaism. I had never heard the 1/60th rule in my life.
Oh yeah, that's Orthodox. That's our screaming fire in a crowded theater. We all knew it. It never came up.
What's the 160th?
It's ridiculous.
If you get a small piece of unkosher ham or bacon or whatever in some kosher soup, it's like how much it makes it non-kosher. If it's like one speck, the number is 1/60th.
There's a number. If
So
there's
it's-
1/60th, you can use
So
it.
it's 1/30th. You're going to purgatory.
You're not
Can't
eating
eat
it.
it.
You gotta chuck it.
But it
And
does
don't give it to the
make
non-Jews.
me
It's a real
realize
pilgrimage.
why all you guys became accountants, because between the Shabbos Goyim and the 1/60th, you're constantly trying to work around the code.
That's
You know
half
what
the
I mean?
act. Is the
it's all
loopholes.
loopholes.
It's all loopholes.
We're loophole. That's why I went tax accountants.
Perfect base for accounting, right? The government wants this.
Wait, who'd you eat with? Was that a work friend?
Yeah.
Oh.
Your cat's
no,
a
that's deductible.
deduction. Did you talk about him on the podcast?
Yeah. Did you mention one thing?
We have the.
Of course, New York. Bringing it. Still bringing it.
Yeah, so this is Queens. 2 men are suspected in at least 7 necklace snatchings, including one caught on video in Queens showing them dragging a 12-year-old girl. Police say the girl is walking home from school on Layton Street, and when the video shows 2 men riding on a moped drive up next to her on the sidewalk. In the video, one of the men can be seen grabbing a necklace from her neck. The driver of the moped hits the gas, and they drag her several feet.
That's
It's just
great.
like, whoa.
Yeah, we'll find it. They'll find the clip. But the necklace did not break,
release.
Did not release.
Lobster claw.
Faulty necklace.
Ooh, we need 2 things, because then Chris Redd got his chain
That's right.
snatched, but it broke apart.
Wait, Chris
And
Redd got his chain back when the guy smashed him in
He
the face.
punched him and snatched his chain, I
That's what
think.
the witnesses
And then the
said.
chain broke apart, so now there's nothing
it was
to
about. It
steal.
was just a robbery. Oh, here it is.
Oh
12-year-old
my God. Being dragged
go,
by
dude.
this vessel.
Oh,
And then
and he crashed.
the
Good.
thing. And first off, I'm no jeweler, back to the Jews, but
Let it go.
how valuable
Is a
a
12-year-old
piece of
necklace.
jewelry is a 12-year-old have living, walking home
Unless
from the...
it's like DJ Khaled's kid.
yes.
Like that's
She's not in Queens.
no.
Also,
No
don't
offense.
ride on the sidewalk. It's very unsafe.
That's right.
What would that chain be? What would resale on...
What's the average price of anything at Claire's?
Yeah.
$17 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you got to have the wherewithal to when it doesn't break, go, no, not this one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not
Let it
your
go.
guy.
Yeah.
You crashed your Vespa. You're still trying. It's like, get out of there.
Yeah. No,
Remember
it's...
heat? You got to walk away.
Yeah, at certain point, there's force majeure, divine intervention.
Right.
Like, by the way, this young girl may cure cancer.
Yeah.
Let her breathe. Obviously, today's not our day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not beshert for you.
Not
as our people say.
beshert.
Very
That's
nice.
right. Wait, how Jewish are you now, Ari?
Zip, dude.
Just 0.
Yeah, I'll only fuck black hookers.
More Asians for me.
Okay.
I love the Jews. I've always loved the Jews. It was a very simple model for me. My family is a bunch of white trash goyim, but I had a Jewish grandfather from Hungary, Laszlo
Really?
Gorok.
Married in.
And he took care of business. He cooked
Sounds
for
like us.
people. He'd take a sweater, you know what I mean? He made me lunch and would bring it to me on a tray, like when I was watching TV. He would tell me stories, like bedtime stories and stuff. He was a regular, normal, loving guy. And I was like, this is the only Jew I've ever met. And I'm living in North Hollywood with a bunch of idiots. But this guy, he's making me dinner. He's taking care of me. He's a good man. And then... I met other Jews at North Hollywood High, but they were the ones who grew up in the Hebrew Heights and came down the hill and went to North Hollywood High. The Jeff Bucks and the Nate Wittenbergs and the Robbie Levines of the world. And Alex Arado. And they all went off to Stanford and Berkeley and became lawyers and successful. And then my white trash friends, we all just stayed in the valley and worked on construction sites. And I was like, there's a difference between
There's
these
a
people,
difference.
and I think these people are better. And I know other people want to get a Molotov cocktail and burn down their house. I would like to befriend them and see if they can help me get a job one day.
They all have the business sense, but some of them are like get their hands dirty, and then you get the like and here it's like you get the Weinstein type Jews
Yeah.
Right.
that are like, yeah, it's like that's what they're all talking about.
But what
Nobody minds the get their hands dirty Jew.
is the hatred of Jews, or the periodic hatred of Jews, seems to be based in envy. And here's an interesting. I have a thought for the Jews
Okay.
in the room and Brad.
Okay. Yeah. I like it.
Brad is a quarter Jewish, which is half Jewish to regular sized people. I don't know if people know that. His mother is actually. So here's a thought, and you got everyone weigh in.
Okay.
I've written about it in my first book. I've complained about this a long time. When I was young, there were people who were successful. Those people who were successful, you looked up to them. You went, that guy's doing something right. One day, little Johnny, you too, if you work hard, will have a big Mercedes-Benz and live on the hill in the big house or whatever. We've entered a whole new era where we go, Rick Caruso, billionaire Rick Caruso, developer, running for mayor. It's like, it's a pejorative now to be successful. We had a choice about 15 years ago in this country. You could go the success route and you could mirror it. You could go family, education, hard work, or you could go what everyone's been peddling politically over the last 20 years is disgruntled. You guys aren't getting ahead because someone else is holding you back. I never thought that growing up. I wasn't getting ahead because I wasn't working hard enough. I should emulate the people who were successful. But politicians figured out that the unsuccessful people, it was much easier and they're much lazier. Just pitch it to them that we live in a society. We're not an even playing field. We've talked about, politicians get up there and do nothing but talk about equity and inequity and social injustice and it's all over the place. Well, how long before the people that aren't doing very well would look at the people who are doing well and go, fuck that guy?
Yeah.
And aren't we fostering it now? I mean, you can blame
It's been going on a
Kanye,
while.
but we're fostering this whole
Scapegoating?
yes,
That's what they did in the
attack
Holocaust.
the people
That's
that are
right.
successful.
That's what they did in the Holocaust.
It's
They
the
were like-
politicians
Yeah.
that are doing
It was the politicians of the Holocaust. They were
Yes.
like, hey, we just need an other. Who's going to be the other? Like, Jews, you'll do nicely. They're
Yes.
the reasons we're fucking. It's not because of the war in World War I. It's not because of that. It's like, it's the Jews.
Yes.
Yeah, how long till they just go after everyone? They hate Elon Musk, who made an electric car.
Right.
He did
Yes.
everything they wanted for the environment.
Right, but if you're a politician, like if you're Michelle Obama and you're out there just blathering about inequity and we live in a racist society and blah, 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 well, how long before people of the race that's being stepped upon is going to go look at the people and blathering about, well, you didn't build that business yourself. That wasn't you. You needed the government. How long before those people are going to go, yeah, fuck those guys who have a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Let's go after them. And then the same politicians go, there's no room for hate. There's nobody can hate here. There's no tolerance for hate. Well, then shut up.
Yeah, but
Stop driving everyone apart then if you don't want hate.
I
Good
love
theories.
it. Yeah, I love when the politicians will say things like, "It's the people in power that are keeping you down." It's like you are a
You.
politician.
You.
Right, thank you.
That's you.
I saw a politician go on stage at the Cellar, and he was talking
Really?
about how. Yeah, he was talking about. It was after he was done, but they put him on. He was talking about how they need pharmaceuticals cost too much, and it's like, when are they going to change? And I followed him, and I was like, "You."
Yeah.
We never had control over it.
No.
You tell
were
us.
right there. You went
did.
into the office with him.
That's what, when Gavin Newsom, came to LA and stood on a pile of trash because they're robbing trains, running in and pulling FedEx boxes off train. And he's like, what's going on around here?
Somebody needs to answer for this.
That's my,
Who's in charge here? Oh wait, me.
Oh shit, yeah, man.
Oh shit. Ari, when it comes to your special, I gotta ask because
Available on YouTube right now.
Yes, we're seeing more comedians do this. They're sort of like they're self-financing,
Stand-up comedy? I'd like to see more of it.
self-producing.
Yeah.
But how'd you decide to go the YouTube route?
Is where you get the most views.
Yeah.
Yeah. My last special I put on Netflix, and it was like a better time for Netflix back then. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, I don't know, the reach has gone down.
Not as much.
Is
you
it-
feel
is-
you can reach more people on YouTube?
Yeah, by a lot.
So, with Showtime, it was HBO, it was
HBO for a while.
Netflix
Comedy
and
Central for a
whatever,
while.
and Comedy Central. And so has Netflix sort of had its run with stand-up?
It's still a good platform, but yeah, it's not the heyday anymore.
And
it's gone downhill a lot.
It's-
A lot of them just come and go. You don't even know. Like my friends, I'm like, wait, you were on that? When was that? They're like, 6 months ago. I'm like, I didn't even hear about it.
yeah.
They
So-
don't focus on the stand-up anymore. It doesn't come up as like there's a new stand-up special. You just don't even get notified.
So they're starting to carve their audience out, and it's a lot of scripted and then unscripted stuff, but not so much stand-up. They're maybe drifting away from stand-up?
This is anecdotal. Seems to be a lot of docuseries. That's kind of their
Docuseries.
thing right now.
It used to be documentaries was their big thing.
Now it's bingey things, docuseries that you can have 7 episodes of.
Right, exactly. Netflix has this thing of like not putting money into their fucking series. It's just done shittily.
So YouTube initially was a place you'd go because Netflix didn't want you. It seems initially.
Yeah.
And then it turned into its own thing, and then now
It's also the only platform that does not censor their comedians. They have a in their algorithm, whatever. They go like, stuff that say you can't say that on this, you can't say that on this platform. They go, oh no, that guy's on a stage, so that's allowed.
so
Wow.
they're smart.
Yeah,
What
they really
they're
are smart
creating.
about it.
Are you
They-
listening, white supremacists? That's all you got to do. Put a brick wall behind you, have a microphone, say
Right.
you're at the Chuckle Hut,
But they understand.
and then you're good.
Yeah, I was on stage with me and Jay went to Big Jay went to Miami, and afterwards he's trying to get laid, and this girl was like, "We liked you, but that other guy was an asshole." And he was like, "What do you mean? That's my friend." She goes, "He was happy his schools get shot up," and he goes, "Oh no!" And Miami's full of literal idiots, And he goes, no, he doesn't really feel that way. She goes, he literally said he's happy when schools get shot. And then Jay was like, let's just have sex. like, I'm not gonna get through to you. But like, that's Miami, and these Netflix, HBO, comedy, they've kowtowed to the Miamis of the world. Who
Right.
can't understand, like, yeah, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
I meant the opposite of what I'm saying.
Joke of what I'm doing, pointing out the absurdity of how horrible it is by saying I
and
like
they
it.
do get it.
Yeah.
They're just worried about some of their fans not getting
Well,
it.
the people in Des Moines don't understand that
This is scary because this makes it sound like if we're skipping over everything that makes modern comedy, are we going to go back to fucking vaudeville and spinning
Yeah.
bow ties
Yeah, take
and
my
things that are
wife.
so literal? Yeah.
It's lame.
Yeah.
Anyway, focus on the positives. YouTube is not doing that, so it's a great place for like real stand-up.
And you finance this yourself?
Financed. That's a good way to put it. Paid for it. Yeah.
Who lit all those candles?
Yeah.
Lauren
You Jews
Halpern.
don't pay for stuff.
It's like I
You
built
get
a
black
deck.
people
and
to
it's like,
finance
you got
for you.
Mexicans.
See, I'm envious of you not being married because this conversation with my wife would not go well.
Exactly. I spent close to half my money on this.
Wow.
And people I'm like, well, dog food is way cheaper than child food.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I talk to you, you're like, I'll see you at the Comedy Store. I'm like, oh, hey, Ari, haven't seen you around for a bit. Where you been? He's like, oh, I've been motorcycling around Machu Picchu or whatever the heck you're doing.
Manchu Picchu is exactly right.
You're always on a trip or a
Trying to
trek
have
or
fun,
doing
dude.
something.
Yeah.
And
Yes, they're single people can do fun things.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's
so
crazy.
jealous.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to
Oh,
have
wait,
responsibility.
you have no kids either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Couple in heaven. Thank you, former laws, for giving me my freedom.
So
And I do think it's murder, and I avail myself of that right. All respect to the fallen. Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
talking to Harlan Williams about this. I was thinking of Jeff Ross and Sarah Silverman, Harlan Williams, Doug Benson, like guys like you, like combined age 7,000, 0 kids.
Yeah.
And there's no and
Jeff
I,
is 40% of that.
and
Yeah.
I said that it is insanely rare that you would meet someone in their 40s or late 40s, 50s, and just go, no kids, never had kids, ever been married? Nope. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find that person. in America or
Yeah,
any
when
other
we grew
country.
up, that was like, what?
Why is it 70% of comedians? And is it because you're all self-indulgent narcissists who just want to smoke weed and fucking do what you want all
Yeah,
day?
it could be. And like, don't you want to ruin that by having some dumb fuck in your house all the time?
I know.
I'm like, well, I'm not sure. Some needy child who just takes, doesn't contribute to the finances of the household in any way. I don't know. I don't really think that.
I forget about Bill Maher just because he's kind of the poster child for this group in his later 60s. But I could put together, Brad could, Ari could, a group of 25 prominent male and female comedians who were all in their late 40s, early 50s, never married, never had kids. You find guys who are divorced, you find they had a kid, and then I remarried and had a second kid. You don't find 0 kids and 0 marriages outside of stand-up comedians.
And you can spot them. You can spot them not sitting in their car, working up the courage to go into their homes.
That's a sign.
They just park and go right in.
That's right.
Start playing Xbox.
there.
When you case your own home.
Like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, because I know who these people are, because these are the people that when I get home from a show on the road, I text them with no thought of like, oh, I could be interrupting something. They could have somewhere to go. Like, no, I know my married friends. They're like, okay, can't text after 10 because then the wife's going to get mad at him.
Joey Diaz called me once. It was like 4:30 in the morning. I was playing Gears of War, like heavily. And he called me. I was like, hello? And he just started laughing. And I was like, what are you laughing at? I was like, there's literally no one else that would be up. This is pre-wake up, post-sleep.
Yeah.
Right.
And it wasn't even a thought, like, Ari will probably be up. And I was.
And we're eating like Gino's pizza rolls.
Yeah, probably a lot, filling up on gummy bears.
Nice.
Yeah.
Having a full gummy bear meal.
It's a good life.
Yeah.
Tostinos really gets you by.
Yeah.
You're getting fat. Oh, well.
Yeah, who's going to
It's on
complain?
me.
Yeah, to impress who?
Yeah, you're snoring. Like, no one will hear it. It's like a tree in the woods. A snore
It's
for
like
a single
when you
person.
scream in outer space.
That's right.
All right, Ari Shaffir's Better Late Than Never is the name of the special.
Sorry.
Chew. Well, you know what, Ari? I think we should just have you come back and sit in and do a long
Yeah, I'd love
extended
to.
dance version of this. Chew is the name of the special. It's available on YouTube, and he's got dates coming up. Hyenas Comedy Club, that's coming up December 1st through the 3rd, and you can go to arishafir.com for the live shows. You can also check out Alex Joske's book, Spies and Lies, and Brad Wialliams. Shows coming up at the Brea Improv this Friday through Sunday, and then also more dates. BradWilliamsComedy.com. Me in Tucson at the Rialto Theater coming up on December 16th. No, 15th.
Calm down, everybody.
Yeah, and then we'll do some shows at the Tempe Improv as well. Just go to amcool.com for all the live stuff. And until next time, it's Am for Alex and Brad and Ari and Gina saying,
What do I do?
mahalo.